So subtracting mixed numbers is going to be, again, just like adding. We're going to write our problems vertically. This time, instead, we're going to subtract. So for my first example, I have 5 and 4/5 subtract 1 and 3/10. So find a common denominator. So 10 is going to be my common denominator. Multiply by 2. This is going to stay the same. And so when I subtract, 8 subtract 3 is 5 over 10. 5 subtract 1 is 4. Now I need to make sure that I simplify here. So my final answer is going to be 4 and 1/2. Looking at my second example here, I have 8 and 2/3. Subtracted 2 and 1/2. So my common denominator is going to be 6. Multiply by 2, you get 4. Multiply by 3. Subtract. I like to do the fraction first. So 4 subtract 3 is 1 over 6. Then 8 subtract 2 is 6. So 6 and 1/6 is my final answer. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about borrowing. So when making equivalent fractions, you cannot subtract the numerators. That's when we know we need to borrow. So we're going to borrow from the whole number in the top fraction. What we do then after we borrow is we add the common denominator number to the numerator of the top equivalent fraction. And this will make more sense once I show you an example. So our first example here, I have 15 subtract 8 and 6/13. Well, so I don't have a fraction on top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to borrow from the 15 and make this a 14. Now, what I do is I take and I make this my common denominator, and I make it as a fraction of 13 over 13. Because if I think about it, 14 plus this 13 over 13, which is 1, so this would equal 1, that is still technically a total of 15. So now, after I've done that, I can go ahead and subtract, and 13 subtract 6 is 7 over 13, and then 14 subtract 8 is 6. And so 6 and 7/13 is my final answer. And another example here. So I have the same denominator. So my borrowing, I'm going to make this a 2. And really what I'm doing is I'm going to add like 4 over 4. But I'm really only going to be worried about the numerator, which is going to be 5 over 4. And then I like to cancel or cross that out so I'm not worried about it. I'm not looking at it anymore. And subtract. 5 subtract 3 is 2 over 4. And then I have a 1 left over. Now, I know I need to divide by 2. And so I'm going to end up with 1/2. Bring the 1 along. And 1 and 1/2 is going to be my final answer. Taking a look at a story problem, a 2x4, which is a board, is 5 2/5 feet long. If you cut 3 3/4 feet off of the board, how much is left from the original board? Well, 5 2/5 subtract 3 3/4, making equivalent fractions. 20 is my common denominator, times 4, I get 8. So 15. So I come over here and borrow, make this a 4. I'm just going to show that I'm going to add 20 to that top, my numerator of my top fraction. So I'm going to end up with 28 over 20. So I'm going to cross that out so I'm not looking at it anymore. Subtracting 28 subtract 15 is 13 over 20. And then 1 and 13/20 feet would be my final answer. So be careful when you're subtracting with your mixed numbers and borrowing.